Well, the day has come. The people have spoken, the congressmen and women have listened and acted, and we have marijuana legalization at a federal level. Or this is one big government April Fools, and we don't actually have that at all. So as the title of this video says, and probably what most people are looking for today, there was a House vote for the MORE Act that passed marijuana legalization at a federal level. It's Gerald Nadler's bill that has passed before in 2020 and now again has passed and is going to the Senate. There are some things that happened differently this time. There were 2 amendments added. One was research about how to better see if people are impaired with being high while driving, and the other is research on how weed can affect the workplace, which is kind of interesting. I'm not sure what that would do. But those 2 were added, just basically more research into marijuana. But on the broader scale, this is actually kind of a bummer of a passing, because when it passed in 2020, in December of 2020, there were 228 yays as opposed to 100-something nays. So it wasn't even the entire chamber that was voting on it. This time around, it was even more on party lines. It was 220 yays and 204 nays. So that's more nays than last time. And less yays this time around. This is the biggest thing I was curious about, which was how the entire chamber was going to change since 2020 and if things were going to be more bipartisan. But if anything, it's become more partisan, and that's worrisome to me. And it makes me think that this isn't going to be an issue that people will come around to and say this is beyond politics and we just need to legalize marijuana. It seems like now it's not necessarily a question of legalizing marijuana, and it's now a question of how we legalize marijuana. And both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, have very different views on how that's going to be. As a review, the Democrats want so much more than just legalization. They want expungement of records. They want to mostly benefit the communities that have been impacted most by the war on drugs. All of these things into one bill, making it a very big bill, making it a very difficult bill to pass. The Republicans are much more skeleton in their approach. They want it just to pass legalization and have the states do the rest and have them deal with it. So those are issues that are on very opposite sides of the same spectrum. So hopefully there's a way to bridge, but it doesn't really seem like there is because of this. And one other thing that was going to happen after this bill passed the House is that there is a Republican bill by Nancy Mace of South Carolina that is much more skeleton. However, it's slightly trying to bridge the gap a little bit. There's an expungement of records in that bill and stuff. That is going to get a hearing hopefully soon in the House. And now that I have seen this bill come out and just strict party lines, I don't think that that bill will be any different. I don't think many Democrats are going to jump on board because they're going to say it's not enough. So yeah, I'm not very happy with the results of today's vote. I know obviously this will go to the Senate and will not pass the Senate because there aren't enough votes in favor there. I've heard one commenter say that Rand Paul may vote in favor just in case someone like Manchin won't. However, I think there are a lot more Democrats in there that also are on the fence of marijuana legalization beyond just Joe Manchin. Yeah, it's not going to pass the Senate, and then even after that we have Joe Biden in the freaking office who hasn't said anything about marijuana legalization and probably won't vote in favor of it or veto the entire bill. I'm glad we had this step. I'm glad we took this step as a country. We're gonna clearly have to continue taking this step again and again and again and again. But hey, we're getting used to it now, so that's a plus. And quick new music releases today because it's Friday. There is a Red Hot Chili Peppers album that came out. The big thing about this album is that, well, first of all, it's a huge album. It's like 19 songs or something. And the guitarist is back. John Frusciante is finally back in the band, and they made this album together. I think they're trying to create another kind of stadium, arcadium vibe to this thing, make it as big as possible. However, their sound is just kind of old and stale, and this album I don't think is any different. I don't even like the way they process the vocals on the lead singer anymore. I think Flea's bass riffs have gotten a little bit boring, and you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers were great. I love Stadium Arcadium. I love Stadium Arcadium, and obviously the stuff from the 90s, but This album is only kind of a nostalgia trip, and if you're into that, then go for it. Then there's a surprise album by this band called Duster. They put out some albums in the 90s, and they were much more shoegazy, I guess. Sound a lot like Yola Tango, but even more grungy than Yola Tango sometimes was. They surprise released their second album of the 2020s, or I believe so, the 2020s. And this album I'm very excited to dive into. I haven't really dove in yet. I've listened to a few songs and it sounds like Duster, so if you're into a kind of shoegazy, slow, kind of something to kind of fit in the background but also come into your consciousness every once in a while, this is the album for you. It's called Together by Duster. And so those are the two albums we're going to talk about today. There's also an album by Pup. It's a pop punk band, but I haven't listened to the album, so I don't want to say anything about it. Anyway, that's that for this week. We have a new marijuana legalization bill out there, and that's kind of cool, I guess. But we'll be back next week to kind of dive into more of the repercussions of what happened here, and I'll see you then.